The SR-71 is one of the most well-known and iconic aircraft in history. It was the world's fastest jet-propelled aircraft capable of operating globally in hostile airspace with complete immunity during the Cold War at speeds exceeding Mach 3 and at extreme high altitude. At the time it entered service, it was the apex predator. But the United States had another ace up its sleeve in the quest for global air dominance. An aircraft that was capable of achieving Mach 3 and operating at very high altitudes and sporting a futuristic design that rivaled the Blackbird. But unlike the Blackbird, it wasn't designed to gather intelligence. It was designed to deliver nuclear weapons to the Soviet Union and to be untouchable in the process. This iconic aircraft is the XB-70 Valkyrie. The North American XB-70 Valkyrie was an ambitious and futuristic aircraft conceived in the 1950s. It was designed as a high-altitude nuclear strike bomber capable of flying at Mach 3 or 2,000 miles an hour. The Valkyrie was a remarkable piece of engineering that, in addition to its nuclear strike capability, had the potential to serve as a supersonic transport, space interceptor, and even a ballistic missile launcher. In 1947, the doctrine known as the industrial web theory, pioneered by Air Force Lieutenant General Harold L. George, became one of the dominant pieces of military strategy considered by Air Force policymakers. George believed, as did an influential group of innovators known as the Bomber Mafia, that strategic bombing campaigns that targeted the enemy's vulnerable key industrial centers was the most effective way to defeat an enemy. General Curtis LeMay, also part of the Bomber Mafia, was a strong advocate for strategic air campaigns and made it his mission to ensure that the United States had the capability to mobilize its long-range bombers anywhere in the world. Beginning in 1955, the B-52 Stratofortress entered service with the Air Force Strategic Air Command and became the backbone of the United States strategic bombing strategy. But General LeMay was a forward-thinking man and knew that someday the B-52 would need to be replaced. Although, after 70 years, that day hasn't come yet. LeMay decided that because the U.S. needed to keep up with the emerging threat from the Soviets, a new aircraft would need to be developed. An aircraft that could fly supersonic and at very high altitude. The Air Force named the new aircraft the WS-110A and issued its general operational requirements. Two contractors, North American Aviation and Boeing, would compete against each other to become the primary contractor. Formal studies were presented to the Air Force, with each being rejected. Both designs were too complex, and with a recommended weight of 750,000 pounds, extremely overweight. General LeMay was not a happy man, to say the least, and he let both companies know it. Both companies submitted their design ideas for a second time in July of 1956. Both submissions claimed to be able to fly at Mach 3 and up to an altitude of 70,000 feet. Each company claimed a payload capacity of 50,000 pounds and a range of 7,600 nautical miles without refueling. In August of 1957, both designs were put to the test, with North American Aviation being awarded the contract by the end of the year. North American brought in hundreds of subcontractors from all 50 states. These included IBM, Motorola, and even Boeing, who was brought in to build the Valkyrie's wing. But before the aircraft could be completed, the focus of the DoD began to shift from bombers to intercontinental ballistic missiles. And by December of '59, funding was significantly cut to the XB-70 program. In 1960, some of the cut funding was restored. However, in an official statement made in March of 1960 by the recently elected Kennedy administration that in part read, "The push for ICBMs, quote, makes unnecessary and economically unjustifiable the development of the B-70 as a full weapons system," end quote. In addition to the surge in ICBM technology, the Soviets were close to the completion of the MiG-25, which was being built with the specific intention of intercepting and destroying high-altitude Mach 3 bombers, such as the Valkyrie. As a result, the XB-70 Valkyrie was downgraded from an operational bomber to an aircraft to be used strictly for research. In April 1961, North American was issued new instructions by the Air Force to reconstitute the B-70 from a weapons system program to reconnaissance strike, which changed the designation from B-70 to RSB-70. It would again be changed by 1964 to the XB-70A, with plans of 3 prototypes. However, only 2 were actually completed. In September of 1964, the first Valkyrie, XB-70A-1, was flown from the plant in Palmdale, California to Edwards Air Force Base. Its pilot, Air Force Officer Joe Cotton, described flying the plane like driving a Greyhound bus around the racetrack at Indianapolis. The second aircraft made its maiden voyage in July 1965. The Valkyrie was designed to accommodate 4 crew members. It was 196 feet long, its tail was 39 feet high, and it had a wingspan of 105 feet and weighed 521,000 pounds. It was the largest experimental aircraft in existence. And its unique design, including a long gooseneck, peacock tail, and canard control ears, gave it a distinctive and futuristic appearance. The XB-70 generated a portion of its lift utilizing something known as compression lift. The shock wave that was generated by the plane's own supersonic flight caused increased pressures under the aircraft. The aircraft's wingtips were hydraulically folded down from 25 to 65 degrees. This helped the plane take advantage of the shock wave, leading to a dramatic improvement in its lift. The folding wingtips, as well as the canard positioned near the front of the fuselage, helped the Valkyrie have greater stability at supersonic speeds. The aircraft was powered by 6 General Electric YJ93-GE-3 turbojet engines, which propelled the Valkyrie at Mach 3 or 2,000 miles an hour. The first XB-70 only achieved this speed once and was limited to no more than Mach 2.5 because of structural concerns. The second flew multiple times at Mach 3 and sustained that speed once for 32 minutes. The XB-70 Valkyrie was built using stainless steel and titanium, which was fashioned using a honeycomb formation to help it withstand the 475 to 630 degree Fahrenheit heat produced during supersonic flight. Most future supersonic jets would use a similar honeycomb design. In June 1966, during a public photo shoot, an XB-70 and an F-104 starfighter collided in midair, killing the pilot of the 104 and the co-pilot of the Valkyrie. The pilot of the Valkyrie was able to eject. The 2 XB-70 Valkyries combined for 129 flights between 1964 and 1969. Valuable data was obtained on many aspects of supersonic flight, in particular, supersonic transports. The remaining Valkyrie is currently at the National Museum of the Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. Despite its potential, the expensive B-70 bomber program was ultimately canceled before any operational bomber variants were completed. The cancellation of the project was due to a combination of factors, including changing defense priorities, the unexpected emergence of intercontinental ballistic missiles, and the high cost of the program. The XB-70 Valkyrie's origins and its testing reflect a remarkable chapter in the history of aviation. While the project was ultimately canceled, the aircraft's advanced design and capabilities continue to fascinate aviation enthusiasts and historians to this day. And the data obtained from its test flights was put to good use in later supersonic aircraft designs. The XB-70 Valkyrie is definitely a head-turner, but it's far from the strangest military machine ever built. In fact, it was the Soviets who seemed to corner the market on strange and unusual military machines. To see some bizarre and unusual Russian military machines, click the screen now. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button and leave us a comment. While it costs you nothing, it goes a long way to helping out the channel, and we really appreciate it. Until next time, I'm Dennis Gill for Revealing History.